What is up, everybody? Here for the DFS Army Killshot VIP podcast for UFC Vegas 6, Lewis versus Olynyk. As you can tell, I am not the fantasy football geek. He has been impacted by tropical storm or hurricane Isaias. No power. Not going to get it back till like Tuesday, I think, or something crazy. Looking for a hotel. So good luck to him. Obviously, he's behind in research. I don't think he's going to have anything this week for you guys. On Long Island, also impacted. I'm a little behind. So there's a couple fights I'm just the very beginning of, but I know Marley is up to speed. I'm still going to have the scope out either late tonight when I do finish, or tomorrow. So we'll have all the content. You guys will be covered there, and it's just like it's football season. Me and Marley taking you through, looking to make some money in MMA. So Marley, what do you? I know what you think. As a softball, what do you think about this card?
It's kind of hard to like, to be honest. But there's money to be made, so I always like that. So I'll be chasing it. But I definitely think it's a week to kind of go light. Right now, I made one lineup, and I've thought about seeing if I could just stick with one lineup, keeping it in the single entries. I rarely can ever stick with that when I say that that's what I'm going to do. But as of now, that is possibly a goal of mine to see if I could just go one lineup this week. Just because I don't really care too much for the card in general. I don't want to sweat it that hard. A lot of close fights. These quarantine fights kind of been killing me lately. Especially coming off last week. That was one of the more brutal cards. But hopefully, I mean, it can't get worse. So that's the upside right here is it can't get worse.
That was a rough scene all around. So enough of that. Let's brush that off and let's get into this card. Starting off with one of the fights. Perfectly honest, I haven't dug very deep into, but really interested in it. Actually, it's Ali Al-Kiasi taking on Erwin Rivera. Rivera is the guy we saw on super short notice, taking absolute bludgeoning against the guy 2 weight classes up in Giga Chikadze, or one weight class up, but it looked like 2. He was small. Super tough, kept coming forward. Draws another UFC newcomer this time. More of a fair matchup. Prices on DraftKings, by the way. Rivera is the favorite, 8,900. So, on paper, they're throwing him a softball here for taking that beating last time out. Kiasi is 7,300. So, Rivera has been in the UFC, but just for a hot second, it's really, to me, still a regional scene fight. So, Marley, how do you have it?
Yeah, agreed. This is basically a regional scene fight. Rivera, the better striker of the two. He's getting a striker. I mean, he's getting someone who's not a striker like Giga was. Giga was just a better, bigger striker. It was a terrible matchup for him. But now if he can work his game, this is the perfect fight for him to win on the feet, possibly get a knockout. However, I think it's also a decent matchup for this Al-Kaisi guy because I think he's going to be the one going for takedowns here. And with Rivera's style, he's kind of like he just leaps in and takes his big shots where, I mean, if it hits, then great, maybe you can get a knockout that way. But it's also possibly going to lead to him getting taken down here. And that makes me like the dog, especially for $1,600 cheaper on DraftKings. I think he is definitely worth a shot. I don't see him scoring well. I mean, unless he can get a guillotine. He's got a mean guillotine. But other than that, he's just not that good. So it's hard to rely on him. Maybe go out there, get a couple takedowns, win rounds. But I wouldn't expect much more than 10x, to be honest, if we're going to a decision here. So really hoping for that guillotine if you pick him. I think this is a fight you can avoid. I really don't like Rivera at 8,900. I think he's probably knockout or bust, with that being in the first round ideally. Maybe he can get you there in the second round too. But if it goes to the third round, I think he's off the optimal no matter what. So mostly dog or pass for me. But if you are making, 5 less fights, you could just, I think, avoid this whole fight and hope that it's a boring decision either way.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm more interested in Kaisi. Just, I don't even know if that's how you say his name. I had to go look at how good the entries are and find a couple more fights of Rivera. But when you're relying on a 135er to get a knockout, and his name's not Cody Garbrandt, like, it throws up some red flags, especially about the ceiling. Regional scene fight, typically you see more finishes, but even on the regional scene, Rivera, his last 3 wins are all by finish. 2 of them in the 4th round, though, and once in the 1st round. He's been finished a handful of times. Like, he's not great. He's 8-3. It's one of those right now. I'm also leaning towards a dog, definitely as the better DK play. And one thing I wanted to look up is the camp case he came out of, not even listed on Tepology. So that's fun. So a little more digging for me there. But regardless, Rivera's upside is pretty questionable here. There's other places to go for your upside on this card. Right now, just on paper, making me make a pick, which I'll update officially in the sheets later, but I'm leaning towards the dog here, and Kaisi is one to look at. All right, next up, we have Yusuf Zalal at 9,300, taking on Slippery Peter Barrett. What a terrible fucking nickname that is. Slippery is the best you can do at 6,900. I don't think I mentioned the... Oh, yeah, I did mention the odds. Sorry. Zalal minus 460. Comeback on Barrett plus 365. You know what? You deserve that just for the nickname. I'm trying to throw some geekisms in here, but truly the best I got. Zalal, by the way, last time out is the guy who he's 2-0 in the UFC, Austin Lingo, Jordan Griffin. Honestly, when he came into the UFC, didn't think he was going to be much. Has looked pretty good coming out of Factory X. Peter Barrett, on the other hand, coming off, that's right, he was the Contender Series guy. This is the second. There's really the first 3 fights, the ones I'm a little light on, guys. Coming off the Contender Series decision win over Sang Hoon Yu. So, Marley, how do you have this fight?
So, yeah, I think this is a real tough debut for this Barrett guy. I didn't really see anything, special from him. That makes me think he's going to beat Zalal. I think Zalal's pretty good. Probably just better everywhere here. I would think that Barrett needs to just drag him into a war. Hope that you can get him in a brawl, maybe clip his chin and either get the knockout or win around that way. Maybe he can also get a takedown here and there to try and steal around, but I just think Zalal is going to be the better fighter everywhere. Just kind of pick him apart at range, land some takedowns of his own. The only issue is that he's 9,300. In his first 2 fights, he scored 82 and 65. Both of those will kill you at that price. I do think he can do better, but I also don't really see 100 plus coming from him at the same time. So I like him, but I like Holland more. So it's going to be tough to afford Zalal, but I definitely will not be fading him. I want him where I can afford him, but not a priority at all. I like him more so for cash games. I think he has a solid floor. And Barrett, GPP shot if you want to, but with 20 or less lineups, I don't think he would make my player pool.
So what is interesting is that when Barrett loses, knocked out in the first round, submitted in the first round, submitted in the 3rd round. So it's a little bit interesting, but Barrett's also going to go for takedowns. He only had 4 takedowns in his Contender Series fight, and Zalal was taken down by Jordan Griffin. If you kind of region here, I think Zalal was just better. The footwork should be too much. Maybe the small cage helps out Barrett a little bit. I do think it's a reach. I think pretty much agree. Zalal was a good cash game play, especially for the salary. I am concerned about the upside, but there's a couple dogs or a couple favorites I'm kind of getting away from. So that leaves me room to play some Zalal because they'll be underweight other spots. It'd be interesting to see how chalky Zalal would be if Kevin Holland didn't get on this card and become the most expensive fighter. But because Holland is right there, I think it's going to drive Zalal's ownership down a little bit. So I have no problem being field weight or a little bit over because I don't think he's going to be very owned in GPPs. I could be wrong. I'll see what Marley's ownerships are. My guess is that I can be maybe not overweight, but I think 20 to 25%. And it's probably about field weight, I would think. Thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking, right around there, 20 to 25.
Now, if he's the most expensive fighter on the card, he's probably 40, 45%, and then I'm going under. But in this case, I don't think I got to get a ton to just be on the field and not let him kill me. But unlike the first fight of the night, man, it's interesting with Kaisi. I think I'm more interested in the first fight of the night than this one. Well, this one I have the favorite. All right, moving on, we have Gavin Tucker taking on Justin James. Tucker's 8,400. James is 7,800. Line on this fight, Tucker is minus 120. Justin James plus 100. So closest fight we've had so far. James is out of Extreme Couture. He had his UFC debut against Frank Camacho. He's the guy who pretty much destroyed destroyed a ton of lineups in the pandemic, right? That was just
Yep.
6 weeks ago. He was the guy who just came in, started swinging wild, landed something, and you know what? It's it made some people some money. I had a little bit just because Camacho fights them, but that was Camacho free square chalk night that absolutely blew up. By the way, funny story, Camacho's facing Brock Weaver. So we all get to play Frank Camacho again. So buckle up for that one. Gavin Tucker, on the other hand, has not fought in a year, coming off a win over Sung Hoo Choi. He is 2-1 in the UFC, but really hasn't fought anybody, and it's not really changing here. Wins over Sam Cecilia and Choi, lost to Rick Glenn. Pick'em kind of feels right here. And if anything, I like just the pure aggression I've seen at Justin James. I saw Justin James in the first fight. Comes in with that attitude. I think he can. He has the potential here to bully Tucker a little bit. Tucker's going to look for the takedowns. So, like I said, the first 3 fights are the one I'm a little light on. The first thing I'm going to look at here is I need to go find out what Justin James's takedown defense is like. So, Marley, can you help me out there, and then I can be a little more helpful the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't really remember too much him having to worry about his takedown defense and film. So I don't think it's bad, at least. I think he might even have the wrestling edge here. But I think there's a lot of recency bias going on in this line. Tucker will open like 2-1. Now it's close to even. So it makes me think James is going to be a very popular underdog this week. And it was like 40 seconds that we didn't learn a whole lot there. And he didn't look great doing it. I mean, he even went in there like, I'm taking this fight on a day's notice. I have 5 minutes in me. I need to win in the first round, or I'm in trouble. Who knows what the case was, really? But I doubt that he would go in there with the same game plan where he's just going out there firing on a guy like Tucker. I think Tucker's he's just too good, too smooth. Really good footwork, solid offensive wrestling himself. He's just really good offensively everywhere. And I think he is, better offensively everywhere. I think James could have success with wrestling. He'll probably be the bigger guy here. He's coming down in weight. Could knock out Tucker as well. But I think it's more likely that this is much closer fight, a lot slower pace than that first one was going to be for James. And I just see Tucker being the better fighter of the two. So I like Tucker here. I don't think he's going to be really owned at all. So I'll probably get some leverage on him, and then I'm going to go underweight to James because I expect him to be one of the more popular underdogs on the card. And I don't want to chase what I think was kind of a fluky first-round knockout against a guy with better – I don't know how much better his defense is, but his footwork, at least, is much better, and I just think he can avoid shots more than Camacho would.
Here's the only thing. That's kind of a lot of what you see in James's tape. That was his 5th straight first-round finish. Now, the records of the guys he's facing, not so hot, not anything to write home about. And they dig into those guys a little bit. It's pretty ugly. But, he can clearly crack. I tend to agree with you. Gavin Tucker's just the smoother guy, has never been finished. So I want to lean Tucker. 34-year-old featherweight that's a little bit dicey for me on Gavin Tucker, just in terms of the intangibles. He should just be the more polished mixed martial artist, and Tucker is the guy, James is the guy who's live to a knockout. That's pretty much how I have this one. It's one to really kind of play with ownership. This is a fight that we know so little about Tucker, about James for real, what James really is, that I don't want to let this fight burn me. So I might agree with you. I'm probably going to go a little over on Tucker, a little under on James, but nothing that's going to destroy this card for me. And that's kind of my take on this one. I'm going to agree the pick for this one is probably James. All right, moving on. Next fight up, we have Wellington Turman at 8,500 taking on El Dirte, Andrew Sanchez at 7,700. A line on this fight, minus 155 for Wellington Turman. Comeback on Andrew Sanchez is plus 135. Wellington Turman is 1-1 in the UFC. It's a huge underdog against Carl Roberson. It was a pretty big one, I thought, and lost a split decision that I think he probably won that fight, quite honestly. Marcus Perez, he beat him last time out, was a dog in that fight again, so he's finally favored here. Andrew Sanchez lost against Marvin Vettori last time out. Look, here's the breakdown of most Andrew Sanchez fights is pretty simple. I think he's the better fighter as long as he has a gas tank. And that is what he was working on at TriStar. Last time out, took on Marvin Vettori, who I'm still convinced Marvin Vettori is steroided out of his friggin' mind. And a pretty good fighter. And he was not able to get any takedowns. And that's really the issue here is Ken Sanchez needs to be able to get takedowns on Wellington Turman. And in that regard, I think Turman's probably the guy who's just more likely to get takedowns. I think he's physically stronger than Andrew Sanchez. And Sanchez, I don't think is a pure enough grappler to really be able to get him down. Both guys have never been taken down in the UFC. And that's what gives me a little bit of pause here. This is going to turn into two grapplers standing. And then, we've seen those fights not go great in terms of DraftKings scoring. But that's kind of how I actually think this one is going to go. I think they're going to cancel each other out on the feet. I think Sanchez is going to slow down, and eventually Turman wins a striking match. I think that Sanchez will burn himself out. I don't see it scoring very high. This is a fight I'm going to be underweight on. I'm more likely in GPPs to take some shots on Turman because he's bigger and stronger. I think there's just some more upside there. He's more likely to land a flash knockout or something like that. So give me Turman, but not really a great fight for me in terms of DraftKings. Did want to quickly peek at the inside the distance line. Yeah, fight goes to decision, minus 255. So one to stay away from here, in my opinion. But give me Sanchez for the win. Marley?
Yeah, I don't care too much for this fight. More so on the Sanchez side, though, because he's cheaper. Easier to pay off his salary in a decision win, and I do think this probably goes to a decision. I think Turman's more likely to get a finish really on the feet or the ground. Like you said, probably the better striker, more dangerous striker, but Sanchez is the harder worker. He's going to be out there throwing the volume on him, so I think he could definitely win on the feet just off volume alone. I think he could go out there, land a takedown or two per round, win that way. I just don't see him finishing Turman anywhere. So it's going to be a close decision if Sanchez wins, but I think he would get 10x or more. So I like him. I don't think he has 100-point upside. Don't love him, but I do want some Sanchez for sure. Whereas Turman, 20 or less lineups, it might be a fade for me. I think he's probably going to need a finish at 8,500 because I don't think he's going to get multiple takedowns against a guy like Sanchez. He could, I guess, but I don't see that being the case, and he's just not active enough on the feet. So I think we're relying on a finish from him, and that's not something I want to invest much in. So 20 or less lineups, he would be a fade. 50 or less, he makes a couple. But yeah, I think this is a good fight to just maybe avoid altogether, especially if you have Turman winning. But I'll take Sanchez to get the upset, so he's my preferred play.
All right, here we go. I'm a little excited for this one. Nasrat Hakparas, 9,000, taking on Alex Munoz at 7,200. Line on this fight, Nasrat minus 240, Alex Munoz plus 200. Fight goes to decision, minus 130. So a little bit 50-50, a little bit more than 50% of this fight sees the cards. I said I was excited about this one, so Marley, I'm going to let you start it off.
So yeah, I think this is a pretty tough debut test for Munoz. I think he's going to be pretty good. Like he looks like he's going to be a guy who beats, I don't know about a lot of UFC guys, but beats UFC guys. Good all around, but I think his wrestling is really what he's going to have to use here in this fight. Nasrat is just going to be the faster guy, quicker on the feet, quicker hands, better striking, more likely, I would say more likely to get the KO, but that's just, I mean, who knows? Coming off a knockout, maybe his chin starts to fade, so maybe he's not more likely to get the KO, I guess. But just hands wise, I think he's more likely to get the KO. But like I said, who knows what to expect coming off that loss to Dober? Maybe chin is fading, maybe confidence fades. During a pandemic, a lot of shit's been a little crazy right now. I definitely think Munoz can get some takedowns, but I don't know that he does much with them. I think Nasrat would likely get back to his feet, and I see him winning the striking battle. So I like Nasrat to pick up decision victory. I think he could score okay in a decision, but not if he's going to be taken down a few times, making this a back and forth fight. I think it would have to be a striking match where he just gets the better of all 3 rounds for him to score well in the decision. But he's in play for the knockout as well. Not a guy that I'm going to make a core play at all, but he'll be in my lineups for sure. But I also want some Munoz on the other side. I think if Munoz wins, he will get 10x or more. So I definitely like that about him. Solid fight all around. Not a must target on either side, but one that I will have exposure to both sides of.
Give me Alex Munoz. Look, Nasrat Haqparast, I said it before the Drew Dober fight. He's just, I don't understand the hype other than he looks like Kelvin Gastelum. Like, you dig into this guy's record, it's not so hot. He was can crushing on the regional scene, lost to Marcin Held, a win against Mark Diakese, who was up and down, and that was during his down, a win against Thibault Goudy, who sucks, and a win against Joaquim Silva, who, if you dig through his record, is questionable as well. Silva's wins are, his best one is Jared Gordon. Then he's getting split decisions to Reza Madadi. Like, it's concerning. You go back that far. I just think he's a little bit over it. He's good. He's quick. He's got takedown defense. Like, he's not a bad fighter. I just think minus 200 is crazy. Like, I don't say he's like.
Are you gonna give us a bunch of studs that Munoz has beat though?
I'm getting there. Hang on, I'm getting there. That is fair. Go to Munoz, and it's let me pull up exactly what it is. He's got the Contender Series win against Nick Newell, and then Troy Lamson. Like, regional guys. He's fought at the Trinity Kings. Like, he's got. It's funny, that last guy, his losses to Alex Munoz and then to Jesse Ronson. Shout out to Jesse Ronson. He was on the Contender Series. He's never been beat. He's 5-0, but he is an older guy making his UFC debut. He's 30, just getting in. Trains at a Team Alpha Male, so good camp if you're someone who looks at that. Takedown, the striking, he's going to be slower for sure on the feet, but the wrestling is there. I don't think he's terrible on the feet. I just don't think Nasrat is super dangerous. So all that together, I just think this is a 50-50 fight. And with the line I'm getting and the price I'm getting and the wrestling that Alex Munoz, if he wins, is going to impose here, Alex Munoz is the pick for me. He's definitely the play on DraftKings. I'm going to, again, be way underweight on Nasrat. Considering a fade on him, it kind of depends how much ownership I have when I build my lineups up in that top tier. I might sprinkle in a little bit of Nasrat because I'm going to be over the field on Munoz just as kind of a hedge. But I like Munoz here. He is, I think he's a dog to target in terms of just the line is off here. Even if he loses, I maintain the line is just not right on this one. And I'm just going to keep riding the underweight on Nasrat guy, underweight on Nasrat. And he's at a TriStar. I love fading guys at a TriStar. All right. Next up, we have Kevin Holland, Vince's boy. You ready, Vince? I know you're in chat. 9,400. Taking on Joaquin Buckley, who is 6,800. Holland, the most expensive fighter on the card, minus 440. Comeback on Buckley is plus 350. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 335. All right. This is one that I finished not too long ago. I have it written up. Holland should win this fight. He's got, Buckley is built like a tank and he hits hard. But Holland should just be too athletic, too explosive, should be able to get takedowns if he wants them and win that way. He has multiple paths to victory. I just don't think Kevin Holland is incredibly smart. We've seen him dragged into wars, and Buckley hits hard. Buckley's live. He is for a plus 380 dog. I'm going to mix in some shots here because everyone's just going to flock to Holland. And I'm going to have plenty of Holland too. I think this fight scores well. The inside the distance line shows that. Holland, I think, is going to be aggressive and put pressure on and put up a big score himself or get knocked out trying to do that. But Holland's been in there with guys like Thiago Santos, and that was a war and didn't get knocked out. So the likelihood is not super strong. Holland is the play here. He is somebody I'm going to eat some of the chalk on. I'm just not going to totally ignore Buckley because he's a decent LFA prospect. LFA is legit. He hits hard enough. We've seen Holland not have great game plans. So Holland's the play, and I'll mix in a little bit of Buckley. I think I wrote in the notes if we're doing 10 lineups, like 6 to 7, 6-ish Holland and 1 or 2 Buckley. Like I really like this fight overall. And there's enough mid-range fights that it's not quite an all-in fight for me just because of the prices. Marley, what do you got?
Yeah, Holland's my favorite play on the card. I just think this is a real bad matchup for Buckley. Like you said, though, dude's huge for sure. Could knock out Holland in any round with that power, but I would imagine it's got to be round 1 or 2 on such short notice. I don't know what kind of cardio he's going to have against a guy like Holland, especially if this hits the ground at all. Maybe he could even get a double leg or two. It's just he's not going to do anything with that, I think, and it's probably bad news for him if he does. I think Holland probably smokes him on the feet. On the ground, and then on the feet, he's just the better all-around striker, probably more dangerous there as well. My only worry is that he just fools around too much and makes this a sparring match for 3 rounds where he scores 60 points or something like that and a win. So definitely can't be all in on a guy like Holland, but he is my favorite play. If I was making 10 lineups, I'd probably be like 6-7 Holland, 0 Buckley. But with 20 lineups, I'll probably take a shot, like 1 shot on Buckley. That's about it. I think he has to get the knockout, and I've never seen Holland too close to being knocked out, I think. So it's just a terrible matchup. I think Holland cruises, and I think he gets a submission early in the fight.
I don't think Holland has ever been finished. No, he was by submission by Rafael Lovato Jr.
I don't know that
some got to be submitted by Jesus.
That I've seen.
Yeah, and he's in there with Curtis Melender, Thiago Santos, reading off his losses, and Brendan Allen, a grappling guy. So yeah, Vince does say fade Holland, but Vince hates Holland. Like no matter what Vince does, Holland's going to burn him. That's just what Kevin Holland does. So good luck, Vince. I'm rooting for you, but have a little bit of Buckley, just a little bit, especially if you're Vince. Well, he might play more. He said fade Holland. So I agree with you, Holland. This fight overall is one to target. All right, next fight up. Laureano Staropoli, 8,300, taking on Tim Means at 7,900. There was MMA math in this one, and I wanted to throw it out for Geek. Let me do the lines first before I get there. It is Laureano Staropoli should be the favorite still, minus 135 favorite. Tim Means is plus 115. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 135, so a little better than 50-50 there. The MMA math in this one, let me find it real quick. I think it was Thiago Alves. Laureano Staropoli beat Thiago Alves, and Tim Means also beat Thiago Alves. Sorry, they both beat the same guy. Sorry about that, Geek. I will say before Marley takes the intro to this fight, Tim Means is 3-5 in his last 8, and to me looks like a guy who's bordering on done. Marley, thoughts? How do you have this fight?
Yeah, I think this one probably comes down to how diminished Means is. Definitely didn't look good in his last fight. If the chin's fading, that's probably not good either, but I do think he is the better all-around fighter still. More dangerous as well on the feet, on the ground. I I feel like he's probably going to be the one with the higher pace out there. So I like Means here. It's just, is he going to get knocked out early? Who knows? I just hate. I'm never good at deciding when people are donezo. It's not a specialty of mine at all. I can tell he's on the decline, but I don't know that he's declined enough to lose to a guy like Staropoli. So I'm going to say that he has not. I'm going to take Means here. I will be overweight to Means. Staropoli's obviously in play in all formats, but I think there are going to be a lot of people fading Means. So I don't want to join on board of that, so I'll probably go underweight to Staropoli and overweight to the underdog Means, who I'm going to pick to get the win. And I think he's going to finish Staropoli.
Wow, that's a big one. I'm on the other side. I think Means is pretty close to done here, and I mean, Staropoli, tough dude. He's in a war against Hector Aldana. I know it's Hector Aldana, but won that fight with a ton of volume. Won 3 rounds with Muslim Salikov. I don't think Means is going to finish him. I think if Means is going to win this fight, he's going to have to be relatively patient, out veteran him, just be a little more savvy on the feet. And I think Staropoli is the one who's more likely to get a finish. Means has in his those losses, submitted by Daniel Rodriguez, knocked out by Nico Price, split decision losses to Moraes and Muhammad. 36-year-old guy, young gun in Staropoli. I lean towards Staropoli in this one. But again, I think there's probably better mid-range fights to target, even at minus 135. I think this one's going to be a slower pace than people expect. Staropoli isn't, a balls to the wall kind of guy. And I think Tim Means is going to be a little more measured in this one. Because if he gets drawn into a war or tries to bring out a war, I don't think those go well for Tim Means anymore. So I think he'll be smart enough, relatively smart guy. For his sake, I hope the chin is still there. And I'm going to have probably a little more Staropoli than I will Tim Means. All right, next fight up, we have Beneil Dariush at 9,100, taking on Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman at 7,100. Line on this fight, Beneil Dariush minus 175. Come back on Scotty Holtzman plus 155. Last time out, Dariush had that crazy comeback win over Drakkar Klose where he was hurt bad and then came forward and got a knockout against Klose. He's won 4 straight since that 42-second knockout loss to Alex Hernandez. I will say I've been knocking on people's age on this card. He's only 31, but I feel like he's been around forever. He's at a King's MMA, so the dude takes beatings in training. I think he's the better fighter. I think, Holtzman, this fight hits the ground. I think Beneil Dariush's black belt in BJJ is way better than Holtzman. I think he can get a submission. Holtzman defended the takedowns against Alan Patrick, but that's because you could sell out and try and stop the takedown against Patrick. You can't do that against Dariush because Dariush can strike too. He can hurt you on the feet. I don't think Holtzman skill-wise is near Dariush. The concern is that Dariush, even in the win against Klose, like he was hurt in that fight. He's been hurt a bunch, and we saw him gas out against Evan Dunham. Like Holtzman could outwork him. There's a couple paths to victory here for Holtzman. Overall, though, I think Dariush is just the better mixed martial artist. I think he can pay off 9,100. I do think he can get a finish. Fight ends inside the distance. Minus 120, so another 50-50 whether or not to see the cards. We'll say Holtzman to win inside the distance is plus 480, Dariush plus 280, so much more likely to get a finish. Agree with that. Dariush wins in round 1 plus 325. That's not so bad, especially at 9,100. I like Dariush in this matchup. I think it's a really bad matchup for Holtzman, who I didn't mention his last few fights. He is 5-1 in his last 6, but the loss is to Nick Holtz, who took him down 5 times. So Nick Lentz. somebody with a Z. So yeah, give me Dariush, Marley.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add. Holtzman very live if this fight stays standing. He could get a knockout as well. I mean, you just look at the guy. You can see the muscles there. Maybe if Dariush's chin is failing or he's declining at all, maybe Holtzman can get a knockout. But Dariush is levels above Holtzman on the ground, and Holtzman was taken down 5 times by Nick Lentz, 8 times by Josh Emmett, 5 times by Drew Dober. A guy like Dariush isn't going to need to take him down that many times. I think he would probably finish before he got to 5 takedowns in this fight. So if he is going out there looking for a smart game plan, which I think he is a smart guy, he should be looking for the takedowns here. He probably gets it done. I think he could pay off that 90-100 with a submission. But if he thinks he's the better striker and he just wants to go out there and strike, I mean, maybe he can win that fight too, but that's a lot closer. He's not going to score highly. And he's playing with fire. So if I knew what his game plan was, I'd like him a lot more. But Dariush is my preferred play here. I like both guys, but more so the Dariush side.
The only thing I want to throw in is that don't be shocked if Dariush does not come out on the feet because Holtzman is selling out to stop the takedown. And that's when guys lower their hands a little bit, and that's when Dariush could get off. But if he doesn't have to worry about takedowns, like then Dariush, just no interest in going for it. Then yeah, things get pretty dicey. But Dariush is a smart guy. I would be surprised if that happened. All right, next fight up, we have Yana Kunitskaya, who totally got me on April Fool's Day. I thought she was pregnant with little baby Thiago Santos. That's why when I saw her on this card, I'm like, what happened? Did something terrible happen? But no, just a fucked up April Fool's joke. And I say fucked up because it totally got me. She's taken on... what's this girl's first name? I think it's Julia Stoliarenko. I know it's Stoliarenko.
Like Julija or something.
Oh, yeah. That's why, because I couldn't say it. That's why I didn't have it in my notes here. Julija, yeah. I'm just going to call her Stoliarenko because her last name's actually easier. Kunitskaya is the favorite in this one, minus 220. Stoliarenko plus 180. Stoliarenko is a one-trick. She is a BJJ specialist who armbars people. That is a dangerous fucking thing to rely on in the UFC. Not really a fan of that. One fight in Invicta for that regional scene. Yana's just better everywhere, with the exception of BJJ, but I don't think this girl can get on top of Yana. So unless she pulls guard, like that's Stoliarenko's path to victory, pulling guard to an armbar. Otherwise, Yana is better everywhere. It's just a matter of can she pay off her price tag. 8,800 is a bit up there, especially when in her, if you go look in her logs, it ain't pretty. She's got an 84 against Marion Renault, and then a 97 against Lena Landsberg, but she got 5 takedowns in this fight. If she takes this girl down 5 times, I'm going to be petrified the whole time for her. Like, do not take this girl down. Just beat her up on the feet. Should win pretty comfortably, maybe get a late knockout. It's not impossible for Yana to land on the optimal because this girl is bad. I'm just going to be mostly underweight to this fight. The couple shares of Yana for the reasons I just mentioned. And if this bitch lands an armbar, Sarah Maras style, I'm in a shit ton of trouble. And that's pretty much how my net will go there. So give me Kunitskaya and not much interest in Stoliarenko. Marley?
Yeah, pretty much agree with what you said. Although I'm not too interested in Yana for DraftKings. Maybe she makes a lineup as like the last spot in a lineup type of deal.
But no one else will be on her. It's your own line.
Yeah, but I would rather have this Julija girl just because if she wins, she's on the nuts. Women's fighting is where those arm bars will happen. And I've been getting my ass kicked with the ladies lately. Like my last 4 or 5 in recent memory are JoJo, Marina Rodriguez, Molly McCann, Belbita. Got crushed on all those. And with Belbita, all she had to do was not get armbarred, and she got armbarred. So who knows if that's what's going to happen here with Yana.
But that was 2 low-level girls. I think Yana's at a different level than
maybe, but Yana can get takedowns of her own. And if maybe that's what happens. But yeah, if she's smart about this, she just picks her apart on the outside. And if that happens, she just doesn't score highly. So I just don't think I'm going to get too much of her where I will be sure to have some exposure to Julija, just for that armbar potential. Not something I'm picking outright. I am picking Yana to get the win. This is a fight that would burn me if I didn't have Julia, so I got to do it.
Got it. I think I'm going to take stand elsewhere, but don't want this one to burn you. I totally get it. All right, our third to last fight in the card. Yeah, that's where these two motherfuckers are. That's what kind of card this is. Because it's Darren Stewart at 8,600 taking on Maki Pitolo on the main card at 7,600. That's gross. That is pandemic MMA. Or just, I should say it's Fight Night MMA. Darren Stewart minus 145 taking on Pitolo at plus 125. Fight doesn't go to decision though, minus 150. Marley, I'll let you start this one off. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this one. I think it's just going to be a close striking match where either one could get knocked out. Both guys will be throwing some bombs, and it'll make for a good fight. I do think it's closer to a 50-50 fight, though, where Pitolo probably has more ways to score highly as well. So Pitolo's my preferred play here. I think he'll be a little bit higher on volume. I think he probably throws bigger bombs, coconut bombs. But I feel like Stewart's more likely to kind of maybe win around that way. Both guys are not good on the ground, but it wouldn't shock me to see either one land a takedown or two. So tough one to pick, but I'm going to lean with Pitolo in this one, really for all purposes. I think just dog or pass all around. DraftKings, betting, this looks like a 50-50 line to me. And it's a perfect matchup for Pitolo. It's not one where he has to go out there and worry about being taken down. He could just go out there, let him fly, and that's what he wants. And he's undefeated at 185.
I mean, I'd be a little concerned about the takedown. It's not like Darren Stewart can't hit a takedown. I'm going to look in his history real quick. Yeah, you got 4 takedowns against Julian Marquez. He was taken down a bunch by Darren Wynn, Edmund Shabazian. But again, Maki Pitolo's not looking for the takedowns here. And Maki Pitolo was taken down and controlled by Callan Potter, which is really, 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 really concerning. And no, this is his UFC debut. And don't look at the 3 takedowns against Charles Byrd, because Charles Byrd, they put those 2 in there because they thought they were going to throw hands at Pitolo. Said, this guy's a shittier grappler than me. It's amazing. And he went in and he got his takedown. So this is fun. I see why people do this to me. So for me, this one is, I have a little bit of interest in both sides, because I think if Stewart wins, it's probably through takedowns. I think he'll, use that game plan. He is, I think he's a smart enough guy to do that. Stewart's last couple fights, by the way, I was taken down a bunch by Bartosz Fabinski last time out. That's the fight I was trying to think of. Was he cut from the UFC after a win? Marley, any idea if he was cut or if he just went to get?
No, that was like after the UFC fight. The card was canceled in London.
Oh, he went to fight with Cage Warrior.
The pandemic started, and they're like, "Screw it, you guys can borrow this fight."
Got it. Yeah, because it's Fabinski. Got it. Yeah, so he's 4-2 in his last 6. His losses are Fabinski and Shabazian, and he gassed out against Marquez. Like, when he struggles, it's against grapplers. I think he's the better grappler here. That being said, Pitolo's the bigger hitter. Pitolo absolutely can knock him out. Definitely could happen. And we have, 7,600, he's clearly going to pay off. And Stewart at 8,600, his paths to victory aren't as high scoring. So even though I'm picking Stewart to win the fight, I think Pitolo is the better play for DraftKings, because he's more likely to break this late with 100 points. So Stewart the pick, Pitolo better DK play with higher upside. Co-main event time. I assume Marley will be back in a second. Co-main event is Omari Akhmedov, 8,200, taking on Chris Weidman at 8,000. Akhmedov line is flipped. Weidman minus 140. Akhmedov plus 120. Look, this fight is how shot is Chris Weidman. The line has flipped. I think it is probably still needs to go a little bit higher. If Chris Weidman's chin isn't gone, he wrestle fucks Akhmedov and submits him. Like he's probably the better striker too, which is a little concerning, because he could try and play boxing on the feet. The issue is, and hopefully he knows this, Akhmedov has the advantage is in raw power. Akhmedov could knock out Weidman. Weidman's chin is super questionable. He keeps losing fight after fight. I do think that if Weidman loses this one, he's either going to be cut. Well, I mean, it's hard to see him sticking around the UFC. Whether he's cut or not is a different story, but he's 1-5 in his last 6. He'd be 1-7, or no, he'd be 1-6. He's 1-5 in his last 6. He would be 1-6 if he lost this. The only win he got was against an outsized Kelvin Gastelum. Like, I will say, he just got knocked out by Dominic Reyes up a weight class. Jacare Souza, he was winning that fight. It was at Madison Square Garden for that one. He was winning the first 2 rounds of that fight, and it just became a war, and eventually his chin gave out. It's just kind of what happens. So that's my only concern here, is the chin of Weidman. This fight is in the mid-range, so load up, guys. This is a fight. The chin of Weidman and the concern there has me off of this fight in terms of a cash game play. This, I think I need to up my rating on the sheet from this one to a 4-star fight to a 5-star fight, which I'm going to do right now. Look at these prices. The issue is, no, never. I don't really see an issue. I'm thinking of a scenario where Akhmedov gets, if Akhmedov wins by 3rd round knockout, it's that striking match they shouldn't be in, and then Akhmedov lands something late, and then I'll kind of take my chances. Weidman is a better guy, should win, as long as his chin isn't toast. And I'm going to stick with my Long Island guy here. So let's go Chris Weidman. Prime time spot for him. Marley?
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add. I think, Akhmedov, round 3 KO could take him off. A Weidman decision could take him off. Wouldn't shock me to see him get like 65 to 75 points in the decision win. But yeah, other than that, it just comes down to Weidman's chin. Is it going to hold up or not? If it does, then he probably wins this fight. So give me Weidman. It would be smart of him to go out there and grapple early so he doesn't have to worry about the chin. But I think he's a better striker too, so we'll see. We'll see what he does.
All right. Main event time, guys. We're in the main event in 47 minutes. I mean, Geek, I love you, but this is my kind of pacing. I want people to kind of chime in and chat here. Do you like the pacing, or do you like the geek jokes? We haven't mentioned horse semen once, so now we just did. But let us know in Slack chat if you're missing that and the jokes and the accents, because I'm not even gonna try to do accents. It wouldn't go well. It'd be a waste of everyone's time. And I'm stalling here because I can't believe that I'm gonna have to break down this fight the way I am. Derek Lewis is the favorite, 8,700, taking on Alexei Oleinik at 7,500. Line on this fight: Lewis minus 185, comeback on Oleinik plus 160. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 675, going to see a finish. This fight goes one of 2 ways. Either Lewis, Oleinik has just come forward right hand. He actually could hurt Derek Lewis. We've seen Lewis hurt a bunch of times. Like, Oleinik is going to bring action. He's got 7.5 minutes usually in the tank. Went longer against Verdum. He's looking trim, by the way. Like, he's looking like he's in shape, and Lewis is going to be the much, much bigger guy. But Oleinik gets this fight to the ground once, submission. Derek Lewis will get submitted. I'd be surprised if Lewis got back up. Lewis, on the other hand, big power. We know it. We've seen it. Look, I've been Alexei Oleinik hater. This is a bad matchup for the Beast, and I love the Black Beast. We all love the Black Beast. I'm leaning towards Alexei Oleinik, and I've given him so much shit for so long. It pains me to my core to pick him, but that's just kind of how I see this fight going. Lewis obviously live. There is a path, by the way, for Derek Lewis to win this fight and not be in the nuts, because he's had so many 3rd round knockouts, and he's not going to land a lot of volume early. He's going to, if he doesn't land a knockout early, he's losing on the judges' scorecards. Like, he doesn't do a lot to win rounds on scorecards. So then he gets a 3rd round knockout. That's what, 60, 70 points? That's not going to do it. So I'm just shy of all in this fight. That's a possibility. I think it's the least likely outcome. The more likely outcomes are Oleinik finish, Oleinik sub, Lewis KO early. Not necessarily in that order. I'd probably lean Olynyk sub, Lewis early knockout, and then Olynyk something crazy. And you remember when um, Derek Lewis has been hurt and then comes out saying, "Oh, I had to take a shit in the cage," like when he got body kicked against Travis Brown. No, Travis Brown almost finished you, and then you were rolling around. Like, we've seen some gross stuff. So, long story short, give me Olynyk. I still can't believe I said that. Have plenty of this fight. Cash games. Somebody mentioned stacking this one, just taking your 100 plus. I mean, Lewis is low volume enough. I'm more likely to run out Olynyk solo, but I think the most likely thing I'm doing if I were playing cash is I'm probably avoiding the main event. Like, I just don't think you need it. There's dogs I like. You got Holland to pay up for. You got Zalal, who's super safe. I'm not saying definitely avoid it. That's kind of my initial lean right now. You can go ahead and stack it and take your points. I think that's a fine option. I'm just going to kind of play with the build. I just don't feel the need to slam in the main event. It's not there this week, in my opinion. So, all right, that's enough of my stalling. Give me Olynyk. It hurts. Marley?
Yeah, definitely avoiding cash. I don't even know that we get 100 points here. But yeah, it's two outcomes: Lewis knockout or Olynyk submission. I mean, maybe with 3 rounds, this could go to the judges, be a real boring, sloppy fight. But this is 5 rounds. I just don't see these guys going all 5. So, knockout or sub. And I think the only way, actually, Lewis makes this optimal lineup is with the first round knockout. Second round, I think you're even playing with fire because it would be, 70 points, get 10 for the knockdown. I don't know that he gets more than 5 points with significant strikes with 2 rounds to work with. So
Olynyk might draw a little bit more out of him because Olynyk's pressure. But yeah, I get your point.
Maybe. I don't know. But with Olynyk, with him, I just keep seeing like a heel hook or like some sort of leg lock. Like he needs to dive for legs, something that doesn't put you in a whole lot of danger because every time he closes the distance, he's going to risk being knocked out. So I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Knockout or sub, one of the two, but I'm probably going to have like a third of my lineups with Olynyk, a third of my lineups with Lewis, and a third of my lineups fading the fight. So no lean for me, no help at all really on this one. But fade it in cash. Just don't use either side. Go elsewhere. Don't stack this one. Because it wouldn't shock me at all to see an 85 point total from these two, something like that. So I don't love this fight at all. Don't love this card. Go light. I don't think there's any way I would max this card after what happened to me last week. So hopefully this one goes a lot better and someone hits the right combo by the end of this fight.
Yeah, I'm a little bit heavier on Olynyk. I think I'm planning. I haven't done the scope yet, obviously. My gut is like Olynyk's one of the 2 dogs I'm picking. So 40 to 50% Olynyk and 20 to 25% Lewis. That could get a little bit higher on the Lewis side, depending on, how lineups shake out. But that's kind of my initial read on that fight. And there could be a third underdog that I'm mixing in depending on Kaisi once I finish that tape. So that's what we got, guys. We got through this card in under an hour. People do miss the geek jokes, geek humor. I assume it'll be back next week, but we're coming up on football season, and then things will get crazy. We got a couple of minutes, Marley. What's the plan for football? I've been out of this. I've been trying to keep up with MMA and soccer's back and going crazy for me. Does football have a plan? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know, man. I just think they're hoping for the best, planning on like having a couple COVID roster spots being the solution, but
that's crazy.
Hard to imagine how it's going to happen. I'm hoping for the best, of course. I've been playing best balls already. I probably have like $200 worth of best balls, more than that, $300 worth of best balls already out there. But I really did no research, so these best balls are my research right now. But we got to do a kill shot too, so we can't forget.
That's right. We can do that. Kill shot. You know what? Mine's pretty obvious, so I'm just going to go ahead and load mine up first. By the way, the Vince kill shot, which has been on fire, is pretty upsetting to me. It's Stolyarenko. So now I'm gonna have to play a little bit of Stolyarenko because I just refuse to let Vince kill shot beat me. So I'm gonna have some Stolyarenko mixed in now.
Hell yeah.
So my kill shot is, I mean, at this point, should be pretty obvious. Alex Munoz.
And I'm gonna go with the Dirty Bird, Tim Means.
You know, you said
That's where
dirty.
I'm gonna go.
You said dirty. I immediately thought you've taken Andrew Sanchez. I went to El Dirte. I was like, well,
I don't hate that either, but Tim Means is gonna be the guy that wins me all the monies.
all right, guys. That's what we got for the kill shot. Good luck in those contests. All the content will be up. I think, Marley, are your notes ready?
Yeah, I got everything done except ownership projections. I'll get that done before noon so I can start drinking early tomorrow.
Nice. So Marley's content's up. Mine is 2/3 of the way done. Article coming. I know Eric will have his up. Geek is not doing any notes this week. I'm going to go ahead and hide his sheet. And if they can't find it later, I mean, they can yell at me. So that's what we got. Ask questions in Slack. Again, I don't particularly love this card either. So, you know, bankroll management this week could be a good week for that. Good luck in those contests. We'll see you next time.
Peace.